take a look at some charts on Stellar from this week's article on Brave New Coin. So the title of the article was related to the token supply, which was halved in November 2019 by 55 billion tokens. And that's not going to show up on this chart because those were generally just locked up. They didn't exist in circulation. They were related to future supply. Another thing that XLM axed was the inflation on the chain through pseudo staking rewards, which are now gone as well. So in general, many of these account holders over the past few years have been related to airdrops that they've done on blockchain.com, on Coinbase, on keybase.io. So they've tried to give this stuff away. So the supply's been dripped out a little bit, similar to Ripple, where Stellar Development Foundation sells or gives away supply slowly over weeks, months, years, that sort of thing. Now this asset holders value, account holders value, has stopped growing and started declining. Not something you want to see if you're bullish. Obviously growth up and to the right. So this in and of itself isn't necessarily, a bullish picture. It's not bearish, but there's no growth right now as far as new people into the Stellar ecosystem. If we compare Ripple and Stellar to one another, Ripple holds the crown for market cap, daily transaction volume, and fees, whereas Stellar holds the crown for transactions per day, daily active addresses, and GitHub commits. So transactions on Ripple are actually a lot more expensive than Stellar. They're not free on Stellar, but they're close to free. And historically, if we compare Ripple transaction fees to Stellar transaction fees, Stellar has had much lower transaction fees than Ripple, but relatively to other coins, both of these values are next to nothing. Looking at transactions per day and average transaction values, you can see that average transactions per day have been trending above 1 million for a few months now. Massive spike here after the 55 billion token burn. So it looks like something was turned on, or some entity began using the chain in a way to promote transactions per day. That wasn't necessarily economic value because average transaction values didn't go up or down. So if this was a bunch of zero value transactions, this would just go to zero. So it's really hard to know what this actually is going on here, how to read this. If we look at NVT and monthly active addresses, you can see that active addresses rose sort of with inflation rewards as they got turned on onto exchanges quietly. It wasn't really a big marketing push that I could tell. The rewards stopped in November, January, somewhere in there. Ever since then, addresses has been flat. Again, not necessarily a bullish picture. This NVT going to all-time lows was definitely related to the token burn. So it sort of normalized again a few months after that. So this is definitely an outlier and shouldn't be considered like organic activity. In general, there wasn't too many new things on Stellar compared to the previous month that happened in the fundamental realm. And the Google Trends sort of shows that. It's just been flat. There hasn't really been anything. If we zoom in on post-August 2015, there really hasn't been much grassroots search interest. What is Stellar? Where do I buy Stellar? That sort of thing. Looking at technicals though, technicals look much better than they've looked in the past 2 years in that things stopped going down. So the moving averages have caught up with price. You can see ever since mid-2018, there's been a bearish 5,200 cross here. Price really hasn't lived above the 200 until very recently. It tried mid-2019, it tried in early 2020. So now it's got this golden cross, which doesn't necessarily show bullish momentum. It isn't like this multi-week bullish momentum. It's just this very near mean reversion play that price sort of went above the 200. And you can see it's not a strong cross. The 50 to 200 are really close together. So like I already said, most of this is just price catching up with the averages and not declining, Arguably, there's a flag pennant situation here. I didn't include in the article, but again, that would project bullish continuation. What I want to see is price above this VPVR resistance. I want to see it above this yearly pivot, above 0.85. The next move up would be 13 cents. Next yearly pivot, next VPVR, previous local high. So that would be the target in the near term if this breaks up. if this breaks up, you'd expect continued bullish momentum because the EMAs are bullish. Nothing exciting on RSI. If we look at the trend in a different way, this is a 2-day cloud. And again, you can see basically it's been bearish since early 2018. Just below the cloud, failure to even complete the edge to edge, failure to complete the edge to edge. Finally, it's above the cloud. The cloud is bullish. TK lines are flat. This is a very early bullish picture for XLM. Basically because it stopped declining and started consolidating sideways. Arguably, there's a multi-month complex head and shoulder situation going on here. Shoulder, shoulder, head. Expect 1 or 2 more shoulders potentially before it breaks the 085 zone. So that's definitely a key level that I put an alert on, a trading alert to watch. Because if it starts breaking those 085 levels, then it's above multi-month consolidation. And again, another reason you typically see bullish continuation. Here's XLM BTC on the weekly cloud. And you can see wisps of an Adam and Eve here. Adam and Eve is a bullish reversal signal that you typically see at the bottom of trends. So you get this V, which is quick and abrupt, and then you get this multi-month U with resistance around 900 sats, 850. Definitely put an alert for that if you're trading this pair. The Adam and Eve resistance zone between 850 900 sats. 1618 projection is around 1100 sats. And then the 2618 is around 1500 sats, which is also the key June. So all this stuff kind of plays on each other in that if you start to see bullish momentum above the Tenkin, you can see it was just free falling, right? No Tenkin bounces, nothing. Now it's hit its Tenkin bounce. Now it's flirting with the Tenkin, starting to cross above it. You expect this mean reversion touch. Since 2019, it hasn't touched the Kijun. Eventually it will. Mean reversion, right? Which would also be a 2618 touch, basically, of this Adam and Eve completion. So the first thing that alerted me to a potential reversal here was just this TK spread, right? Because this just says there wasn't a mean reversion in a while. There hasn't been. And price is just free falling. Then you say, oh, there's an Adam and Eve here, potentially. It's messy, it's not perfect, but it looks like it could be there. So anything above 850, 900, I'd expect pretty strong continuation. Looking at this daily, again, it's flirting above the 200 for the first time since early 2019. It's above the cloud for the first time since 2019. There's a lot of VPVR support down here. So if this does hold, I'd expect it to hit 13, 14, 1500 sats, which is just an echo of all these previous targets. So there's lots of confluence for price moving up to that level and resisting at that level. Yearly pivot here, VPVR, little zone of resistance there. And then if we zoom way in, arguably there's a potential for this type of accumulation called white coffee and accumulation, where it's kind of this stereotyped pattern that you see over and over again. Is this perfect white coffee and accumulation? No. Does it echo and mimic white coffee and accumulation pretty well? Yeah, it does. And again, if this breaks 900, you'd expect some sort of bullish consolidation and then continued markup. So overall, fundamentals very boring, unexciting over the past couple months, but technicals look like they're heating up to it's time to pay attention territory.